Welcome back to another episode of Sidebar Social. I'm Jennifer Grinke.
And I'm Dana Stewart. So I wanted to get into something with you. I feel like so far in the episodes that we've had with this podcast, we've been able to bring in guests, some friends of ours, and I'm trying to give like a sneak peek to those who watch of behind the scenes on how we handle our practice and on the holistic approach we take, as far as the different professionals that we work with. And just kind of curious your thoughts on just your perspective on that. I mean, do you think that we're the only firm doing that? Or if you could just talk to the viewers a little bit about how we handle our approach.
Yeah, I think that definitely sets us apart. When a client comes in, we're looking at the whole big picture, not just, hey, this is a divorce case and we need to get from A to B. We're looking at, hey, what does that client need? Are there any underlying psychological issues? Are there, any other forensic issues? So we're looking at the different parts and we're finding the different professionals that we work with to kind of fit that specific client.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the clients benefit from that. And I think they like it, and today I think we're really lucky to have somebody who is a friend of ours, who is a clinical psychologist, an author, a podcaster, just an all-around good guy to know. He's an expert with substance abuse issues. And so I'd like to welcome Dr. Kevin Gilliland. Thank you for being here today.
It's so great being here with you guys. Now, I was excited to be here for starters. Now I feel like I need to answer that question about you two, right? Because I see your practice. And so what I would say is, y'all are on my short list of lawyers that I refer to for people that are going through what I think can be one of the most difficult events of their life, because I've gotten to know y'all through work, and then you're also just amazing people. And I think what I would say is, y'all are brilliant at the law, but you really care about the people that show up at your office. You care about them as parents or at work, or are they staying healthy? And it's unbelievably challenging. So I don't see many people that do it like you guys do, that you really care about the people that you see. We've had cases, Dana, you and I have had people that we worked on 8 or 9 years ago that you'll occasionally go, hey, how's so-and-so doing?
Yeah.
Or we've got one recently that has come up in discussion.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't think about talking to anybody but you. And so you just go, that says so much more than just your legal expertise.
Yeah, and I think that's mutual, because I know those clients feel the same way about you, and I know that we do as well. It's good to have your insight. I think you're always very upfront and transparent, but then you help us digest the issues of psychology in a way that we can understand it with our non-psychology backgrounds.
Yeah, that's funny, because I assume you want to know my honest, candid approach. Not everybody does. And y'all always want to know from the standpoint of, okay, we're trying to help this individual as an individual, but also their case, which,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's when you find good people like that, you hang on to them.
So just let's pause for a moment and just talk real fast about, so your practice now, the Maybell Group.
Yes.
So can you just tell the viewers at home a little bit about what your practice is comprised of, what you do there?
Yeah, so clinical psychologist by training. I'd say if you have to narrow that focus, I've done a lot with drug and alcohol use, abuse, and addiction. And yes, it's on a continuum, but also the psychological health of individuals going through difficult things in life, whether it's a death or a divorce or a serious physical illness. There are things in life that we get hit with that are unlike anything else we faced. And so I tend to think of myself as being really practical with helping people navigate difficult seasons or events in life. I do some consulting with companies. I always have, which I think is one of the reasons I work with a lot of business men and women. Therapists, by and large, if they go straight into doing this work, they don't know what it's like working for big corporations. And I've worked for some big corporations, Johnson & Johnson, and one of their pharmaceutical companies, in medical affairs. I was with Blue Cross Blue Shield for about 5 years. And so you just gain a better appreciation for some of the demands for moms and dads that are also trying to work but deal with some mental health issues.
Yeah, that human component.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's just really challenging.
We often see clients on just like this roller coaster when they're going through their divorce. And a lot of times up front, I can be aware of that. And so I think one of the things that we try to do is kind of get you in on the case from the beginning. And sometimes we don't really know, is it a substance abuse problem?
Right.
Is it a psychological problem?
Both.
And so, when we come to you, can you kind of explain like what you're looking at and how you kind of help us navigate that for the case and the client?
Yeah, that's a great question. I end up doing two kinds of legal work. I get appointed by judges, and then I get called by a short list of attorneys that I work with that are like, hey.
Every time you say that, I start laughing because I'm only 5'1" and 3/4. They're like, that's why I'm on the list.
She loves to throw out the 3/4 part.
Yeah. I did too for a long time. And then I was like, look, you're not 6 foot, Kev. Just come to grips with it. I have, but I'm
happy to be on the
But
short.
see, that's why
you're on the short. Yeah.
I get an extra inch off my hair.
You're totally leveraged. I even lost that leverage. So I'm like, look, I'm basically 5'3". So, okay, I'm a little taller than that. But so when I get a call like that, and it's what y'all realize more than any other attorneys, I think, is the psychological toll that legal cases, and in particular, a divorce case, can have on people. And they know something's not right, and so do you guys. That's why I enjoy working with you guys. And so what I tend to look at is, the first thing I look at is, what's the psychological dashboard? Right, we all know what our physical dashboard is, right? What's your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your weight and your height, not just one of them. Your temperature, you run into fever. But when you look at what's your psychological dashboard, most people don't know what to look for. Like, what are the things I should be mindful of? So when I get a call, I look at, okay, who are you connected to? Who are the people? Where's your purpose, right? Is it with kids? It's not just jobs, but it's what's that thing that gives you meaning, where you're needed, where you're part of a community, doing something that's meaningful. What do you do for fun? There's so much research on play and hobbies and interests that really make so much of our lives. They fuel so many important areas of our lives. And then our brain and our body. What's your psychology? Where do you notice yourself struggle? Is it mood? Is it worry? And then your body. It's, we talk all the time, sleep is power, food is fuel, movement's medicine. And when you're going through a difficult time like COVID, probably the number one thing I heard from people is problem with sleep. They weren't sleeping. They were either having a hard time falling asleep. They'd wake up in the middle of the night and couldn't go back to sleep because our routines were disrupted. We were worried about our income. We were worried about health of someone that's older, and if we're taking care of parents, we don't want to give them COVID because they're in their 70s or 80s, they're in a high-risk group. And so those kinds of things, when they get disrupted, we struggle. And so that's when I see people going through an event like a divorce, I always look broadly of, okay, what are you doing in these areas that are good medicine? Life is full of good medicine, but when we go through a difficult time, we can stop doing that. And y'all see that all the time with your clients.
Yeah, and I love the analogy of the psychological dashboard. Like, I can visualize that, almost like a heads-up display for a vehicle or something.
Yeah.
But is that something that you actually tell somebody that you're working with? Okay.
Absolutely. Because, what's unique about divorce, what's not so unique, right? Think about COVID. We lost our communities.
Yeah.
We lost the communities that we go to a lot, whether it was a bar, a health club, a church, or a temple or synagogue. We lost all of that. We were stuck at home. That's why if you looked the first month or two of COVID at bulk trash, it was mountains of stuff. Because we all went through our attic, we went through closets, we redid the yard, because we're like, wow, I've got to do something. And then we settled into this dip where we were really struggling. We didn't see coworkers. We were isolated. And so it's one of the things I talk about in divorce, because you see people that lose their friend group, or they don't go to the gym anymore, or they've had to change where they worship, or even sitting at sporting events with their kids.
Yeah.
And so it's those things, and that interpersonal connectedness, people, is one of the most important good medicine places in our lives, and divorce can kind of strip people of that.
Follow us and join the conversation on Instagram and YouTube at Sidebar Social. I think we've definitely had better outcomes once we got you on board on a case. Somebody will come to me and, there's allegations on the other side. They have a drinking issue or they have a substance abuse problem. And really, I think when we send them to you, we kind of head that off because there's typically some type of underlying issue going on, maybe the stress of the divorce or something like that.
Well, because I see it, because they'll mention to me that, oh, no, I'm like, hey, make sure that you're letting your attorney know. Oh, I do. I email them and I text them. I'm like, oh, I have a feeling you're emailing and texting in a way they know you're anxious.
Yeah.
And that you're worried and you're not sleeping because you're emailing me at 2 a.m.
Yes.
Y'all see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Way before I do.
Strings of emails coming in all night or all hours of the night or the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you sleep deprive yourself, all of us, it's true for us when we sleep deprive ourselves because of a work project, we're more emotional. And now we're trying to course correct it. And now we're vulnerable to eat in a way we don't normally eat or drink in a way we don't normally drink. Because now we're trying to solve another problem. And whether we're drinking alcohol or lots of caffeine and energy drinks, because I'm not sleeping, because I'm really worried about my kids or my finances, or am I going to have to move? I don't know how y'all do y'all's job, honestly. But y'all look at me like, God, Kev, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, I don't know how y'all do it.
Well, I was just going to ask you, and I'm sure there's not, probably like for us, every situation's different. There's maybe a framework we use, but every, facts are always different. So how do you go about if you are working with somebody who is struggling with sleep or maybe it's substance abuse or both of those? How do you go about addressing that in the beginning with the patient? Or do you call them clients or patients?
I say clients.
Clients, okay. So with the clients, how do you address that at the beginning?
Yeah, well, I think it's good news, especially for men, because men, you never want to talk to a psychologist. So I get that. Women, y'all do so much better than we ever do. I don't think we ever catch up. But I talk about, look, life is full of good medicine, like being physically active. Being physically active is good for our psychological health. But when you go through something like a divorce, you make the mistake of thinking you don't have time for it. I'm like, no, this is one of the most difficult things you'll ever go through. So let's not make it worse. So I talk about things that you should expect to get a little bit of a benefit from. Being physically active is beneficial. And I don't care I don't care about your past. What I care about is making this less stressful. And if you'll just walk, not exercise like join a gym. No, just start counting your steps.
Yeah.
And do 10 more steps today than you did yesterday. And your physical activity will help you with your sleep. It'll help healthier food choices. And you also are probably going to decrease your alcohol consumption because you're going to wake up and walk in the morning because we finally have nice weather in Texas, which only happens like for 10 days.
Yeah, we're loving it now.
Right, we're loving it now. We're loving it now. So date stamp this video. Visit Texas now.
Yeah.
So, but I really do. And it's good news that, being physically active, yes, it will help you. And so I'll talk about ways that it helps for them. And a lot of people have experienced physical activity as being a healthy place for them. And we do a better job talking about it being beneficial to our psychological health.
To learn more about Grinke Stewart Family Law, visit GrinkeStewartLaw.com. So you mentioned substance abuse, and that's I feel like a topic we could really dive into. And in fact, we're going to do that on a different episode. I wanted to quickly get back to that statement you made, though, that movement is medicine. I just think I've never heard that before, but it's so powerful. And I know it's true because I know, like, for me, I mean, I know you and I are very similar with staying active. I never have a problem sleeping, every night right to bed. I can sleep anywhere. But I wanted to brag on you for a minute because I don't know if all the viewers know that you have competed in Ironman competitions, and I think you're a badass. So I just want to throw that out there.
Well, I appreciate it. That's just one way to publicly tell people you have issues. I mean, I definitely...
Glutton for punishment. punishment.
Yeah, no denying.
You must have a lot of issues then.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a lot. In fact,
yeah.
Kevin and I could be brothers.
Oh yeah. But there is. I think you also realize. Wow. I think I got into probably working out like I do when I was in grad school because it was so stressful. At the time, I didn't know it. Now I know. Oh, actually, physical activity is really important for my psychological health.
Yes.
And I'll go back to, yes, I did a couple of Ironman distances, which seems like a long time ago. But during COVID, I struggled. I struggled with working out and with eating healthy. How come? Because our whole world had been turned upside down. And I was still having to see patients, still having to work. All the routines got disrupted. My wife was at home. She teaches kindergartners. She was the angriest kindergarten teacher I'd ever seen. Because think about it, they love being with those little itty bitties.
Yeah.
And you try to do virtual kindergarten, it's impossible.
I can't imagine.
It's
that.
horrendous. And so even someone as disciplined as I've been, I struggled with the foods I ate and with just being physically active because so much of my world got turned upside down. And with divorces and people going through that, that's the thing I think that's encouraging is to go, hey, as strange as you feel, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken. You've almost certainly stepped away from things that are really critical for you. Some of them may have been taken from you, like your friend group or that social group. And again, that is a significant place that we've got to improve. And just to realize, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not losing my mind. I'm not crazy. No, you're not. It's a higher bar than that. You've just lost some really important pillars in your life. Okay, so start looking to fill those in. And when you do, it starts to make a big difference. And I see it and you guys see it too.
Yeah, and we've seen it with different clients that you've worked with that you've really helped. You know, we've had examples of people who were going through an awful time, maybe the worst time in their life, and you were kind of that shepherd leading them to a greener pasture, you know? So I really think the work that you do is, it's impressive. It really is.
Oh, I feel so fortunate to get to do it and to work with people that approach it like you guys do.
The short list,
Right.
Jen.
The
Short.
5, 1,
short
3, 4,
list of people that get big results. I mean, just giants. Like I think about, we've worked with people over the years, but where I start to see it is as they settle with starting to do some of these things, getting plugged in with healthy people, being physically active, and working on things for sleep, like managing excess worry, I start to see them be less emotional and more thoughtful about the process of divorce, right? Because they've got some of their best thinking back online. And when you're highly emotional, none of us are. We don't have our best thinking. And I hear that as they talk about discussions they have with you guys and sort of realizing, or they'll say things like, well, I mean, I realize now, or Jennifer said, or Dana said, and I can see them still thinking about it. Even though they don't like it, they're like, I see what they're saying. Whereas before, a month, 2 months before, they couldn't even see it because it was so emotional, reactive, fearful. And when we're in that space, we're not thinking. Like literally, biologically, we don't need this part of our brain. And that's the most important part of our brain. Yeah. And that's where I see it get better as I hear how they talk about conversations.
You know, it's interesting. Then in that scenario, think about that psychological dashboard, and you think about a dashboard in a car, and if something's wrong, you get the tire pressure light or whatever. But I would imagine some people at the beginning of you working with them, they don't even see the warning, right? That they don't know that there's a problem with their psychological dashboard, and you teach them how to recognize that.
Oh, and then they come in, I'm like, oh my God, every light's on.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can hear some buzzers, and you're like, do you not see that? And they're like, what? They don't see it because they look right over it to all this emotion and fear, and I'm never going to, okay, no. Let's just breathe. Like literally, just breathe. And let's look at some of these things, because if you're sleep deprived, no amount of therapy, no amount of great lawyer can overcome sleep deprivation. And I just tell people that. And so I have them literally start working on sleep. And it's probably the most significant from 1 week to the next change that I see.
Wow.
is they've started sleeping more, and they're thinking better, and they're talking about their situation different. And for me, I see that and hear that, and then when I touch base with y'all, I hear it echoed with y'all's meetings with them. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
now they're better able to manage what feels like is unmanageable, but now it starts to get a little more manageable.
We may need to do an intervention here, though, Kevin.
Okay.
So, how much sleep do you get every night?
Oh, it'll get real in a hurry, won't it?
Because I
Like 4 hours.
yeah, I knew it wasn't a lot. Did you hear that? 4 hours.
That's stay tuned for next week. Jennifer's sleep issues. I'm telling you.
Like a Tesla, you just like plug me in for a while. and-
Yeah.
good.
Now we can steal sleep, right? We all steal sleep. And it's chronic sleep deprivation we have to be careful of, which is losing or having suboptimal sleep night after night after night.
Okay.
It's the way sleep debt works. We can't make it up on Saturday. You can recover a little bit, but it's eventually going to catch up. So sleep is critical.
Are you familiar with Matthew Walker? Do you know that name?
I don't think so.
He's a sleep expert. He's got really interesting information. I'll have to send some stuff to you, Jen.
One of my favorites, Harvard Medicine puts out, and they've got a handful of things that they put out. You can Google search it. They've got one on sleep, which is, I think, fantastic. It's one of the best resources. I think it's $18, $20. And it's really, really good. Covers a lot of the physical, psychological pieces of it for all age groups. Right, because it's about performance.
Yeah.
You want to be able to excel at the work you do. And if you look at athletes, sleep is one of the key pieces of their physical recovery is sleep. And they'll sleep 9, 10 hours, some of them 11, 12 hours to recover from physical activity. But for us, it's the brain, and you want your brain recharging. You'd never dream of not plugging your phone in. So why in the world would you not plug this thing in so that you wake up with a full battery in the morning?
Oh, I love that.
In addition to my intervention that you and Dana are going to have for me about my sleep issues, we are fortunate to get to have you back on in a few weeks, and we're going to be talking about substance abuse and how that affects everyone and affects our cases. And so thanks for coming on, Dr. Gilliland. We really appreciate it. This was very informative.
Yeah, thank you.
Now
so
I know
much.
I have issues. So
See, she wouldn't listen to me. I needed you here for that.
And now we have it on film. It's always great to be here with you guys. Thoroughly enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much. And if people want to get to know more about your practice, what's the website that we could send them to?
Dr. Kevin Gilliland, Dr. Kevin Gilliland's good Irish name, a lot of L's. You'll get there eventually.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on Sidebar Social.
bye.
To connect with today's guest, Dr. Kevin Gilliland, follow him on Instagram at dr_KevinG. And to learn more about his practice, go to drkevingilliland.com.